Can you tell me a bit more about Salesforce Unraveled and who you are?
So Salesforce Unraveled, the purpose of this video series is to try to explain to mainly business people or people who sort of know about Salesforce, about what it does and what it can do, without going into too much technical aspects. Some of them will be series on very the technical stuff, but the majority is really explaining, what does Salesforce do and what can you do with it. So my name is Connie, and I am a Salesforce trainer, and I've been sort of in the Salesforce ecosystem for well over a decade now.
So, he says, trying to read the question. What you say you've been in for over a decade. What sort of career path have you had?
So I started my career in market research as sort of an analyst functionality as well as manager functionality. So looking at a lot of data, working with a lot of customers, explaining to them how their products were doing, how their brands were doing. After doing that for a long time, I found that I plateaued, looked for a new chance, and I came across, by sheer fluke, a Salesforce opportunity. I actually was a real Salesforce accidental admin, brought into the job like, oh, well, they said, this is going to be still an analytical job, but also sort of new tech you can play with. So I interested. And that is how I rolled into the world of Salesforce and stayed in it ever since.
So, you say you've been in Salesforce for about 10 years. What have you done over that time?
So I started, like I said, as an admin, so did that for a couple of years. And as an admin, I pretty much did everything end to end. So both building elements in the system, helping users, training users, so pretty much anything and everything you can think about. And then transformed to a training role. So for the longest time, so for the last 8, 9, 10 years, I've actually been a trainer, both end user trainer as well as a certified administrator trainer. So actually helping administrators and developers getting their feet on the ground in the world of Salesforce.
So, what do you consider training as opposed to coaching?
Good question. For me, training is learning somebody the ropes. So telling them, for example, if they're related to Salesforce, how does the system work? What do you do where? Why are you doing certain things? How you should be doing certain things? Coaching to me is more sort of the softer element, helping people on their career path, helping them to network, maybe helping them in challenging questions they have. So not necessarily telling them click here, click there, but more help them think to their thought process about this is a problem the business has. How can we solve this?
Who do you think would benefit from having a Salesforce training most?
I think anybody who comes into the access to Salesforce can do it training. It really depends what you want. So I say for people who are sort of in a business and are using it, they need sort of a front end functionality about, okay, why are we using this? How we used it, and how can we as a business use this best? So that is a different type of training than for admin and developers who really need to know the technical aspects of the system. I think everybody can do with training, no matter where you are. It just needs to be more bespoke depending on where you are and what you actually are looking for.
So, since you started, Salesforce themselves have brought in a sort of training platform. Is that a good way to get into it, or is that sort of a nice add-on?
I think it's probably the cornerstone of learning. The big advantage of it's a free tool. And in one of the other videos in Salesforce Unraveled, I actually talk a bit more about Trailhead and how the platform works and why you should use it. I can't see anybody who's in the world of Salesforce not using it. It really helps you understanding how the system works. And it helps you learn and grow. And the biggest thing is it's free, which is really nice.
How does that compare to how much training and learning you had available when you started?
At the beginning of my career within Salesforce, so like I said, it's been over a decade, Trailhead didn't exist. So the learning was basic. I think there was just about a Salesforce Dummies book out, but I think it was actually just the only thing we had was the Salesforce manual, which is very technical. And basically I relied on people telling me stuff, and that's what I learned stuff, and also I learned a lot of stuff that I shouldn't be doing.
So, in terms of building out training, who would be the best person to deal with you regarding that?
It's a variety of people. So it's anybody who leads a project. So if it's specific for a project because you bring in a new element or you're upgrading your system, then any project lead. Otherwise, it's people that are really the Salesforce champions in a business and who understand that your users need more training. It can also be L&D, the learning and development teams, but they're normally dealing more with the day-to-day stuff and normally not necessarily involved in technical platforms like Salesforce. So I'll probably say any decision makers within any project and any Salesforce champions, Salesforce product owners within the business.
So, do you think there are any businesses that have existing software that would find the transition to Salesforce difficult, or would that undoubtedly benefit from training?
I think any transition is challenging because it's transition. It's people in general. I found over time, people are hesitant to change. Salesforce itself is a relatively simple platform. Yes, you need training on to know how to use it for your team, but it's not that complicated. What is complicated is the processes. But the biggest challenge is actually dealing with change management. Is why are you going to use a new platform and how are you going to use it?
Do you find that many people are enthusiastic for the change, or is it a range of experiences?
I think most people are. So most people are actually quite happy to move because normally they have old systems. Uh, Regularly, I have been in businesses that have like the same system like 10, 15 years ago. Now, if you look back at the computer systems that were there back then, they're basically glorified typewriters. You know, they have not nice page layout, they're not intuitive, you can't do a lot of automation in it. And so Salesforce will help in there. So most people, yeah, they're quite happy to move over. It's just accepting change is the challenge.
So you mentioned older systems there. What sort of systems do you think Salesforce runs best on now?
The good thing is because Salesforce is cloud-based, it runs on pretty much anything, so it doesn't really matter. You just need to have a computer, laptop to go really into the system. And for people, that's mainly office people. And then you prefer to do a Chrome browser. You can do some other ones, but pretty much Chrome is the preferred one. For people out and about, that's where it really becomes really handy. And then you can use any mobile phone or any tablet, preferably again the iPhone and the iPad because it just seamlessly works on that. But the other systems also work. And you know, for those people, you know, imagine anybody who is a sales rep no longer have to bring along big stacks of paper or lugging a laptop around, you know, but just can have a little iPhone or iPad with them and just do the job.
What do you think is probably the key learning that you would have had if you'd been able to advise you before becoming an accidental admin? What's the key nugget that you would say to yourself?
Um, Tough one, because like I said, back then we didn't have trailhead. But I think, if you start in there, trailhead, key. The other thing is find a mentor. Find somebody who can be a sparring partner, who can help you and guide you. And especially who can help you learn on the way and tell you what you should and shouldn't do.
Do you think that training is, because of all the recent pandemic, do you think it's better online or in person?
That's a very personal question for people. I think I can see benefits to both. I'm actually currently in a project where we do everything online. The challenge for the trainer is make it engaging. So and making sure the people are in there in a classroom, you know, sitting 8-9 hours on a computer screen attending training is really difficult. So you need to far more break it up, make it bite-sized. Compared to classroom where you have really the physical interaction. I think for the learning experience, I still would go for classroom. It's also because people can bounce ideas of each other, interact with each other, which you just don't get from online. Advantages from online, you can do it at your own pace. When you have time, when it fits your day, you can do a bit of learning. So it really depends how critical it is, but I would prefer still, if you really need to do a little bit of classroom, face-to-face training, as I would call it. But definitely online is there and won't go away.
So the in-person training is ideal for most people who have projects that they need to change, and they may be unfamiliar with stuff, and you can sort that out quicker. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and it's also, I think, especially the change element. If I have 10 people in the classroom, it's far easier to help them along the way and to deal with complex questions. When they are online, it's far easier for people to switch off. Also, there's not always a camera on policy, so if people are just hiding behind the black screen, you don't really know what they think and how they engage. So depending how far advanced the company is in their tech, depends if I would go, yeah, for sure you need online training or classroom training. I would say the more older tech you have, the bigger the change is in going into Salesforce, the more I would advise get people into a classroom and face to face.
Okay, thanks for that. So what's the thing called again?
Salesforce Unraveled is my series. So this is the first one, introduction. I hope you liked it. Do make sure that you do the usual social media, like, subscribe. Any comments, any questions you have, please drop them in the comment section. And thank you, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks.